To call the meeting, the February 10th, 2022 awards meeting to order. We have a physical quorum represented by Stephen Datz, Hyde Vu, and Ricky Erickson. We also have Julie Crawford serving as a delegate for Joe Arquano, and Laura Dutton join us via video conference. The Office of General Counsel is represented by Rebecca Levy. Budget is represented by Lori Whitmer. And before we begin reviewing today's agenda, I'll note that there isn't anyone physically present for public comment. And Haley, did you receive any public comment via email?
No comments at this time.
Thank you. Let the record show we did not receive any public comment. I'll pause for a moment for callers joining the video conference to unmute and speak up. Okay, hearing no comments, we'll proceed with today's agenda. Beginning with, hold on one second. All right, on today's agenda, we have items 1 through 4. They've been reviewed by Procurement and Budget. These items are now ready to be reviewed by the Awards Committee, beginning with item 1, representing the minutes from February 3rd, 2022. Are there any comments or corrections to be discussed? Okay, not hearing any. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from the February 3rd, 2022 Awards Committee meeting?
Hi, so moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lori. We have a motion from Hyde Vu, a second from Laura Dutton. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Minutes are approved as presented. I'll pass it over to Jenny McCollum, our Chief Procurement Officer, to walk us through each of the remaining items before I ask for a motion, beginning with item 2.
Thank you, through the chair. Award number 2 is a change order. This is for our owners' rep services for technology, security, and facility systems for the new JEA headquarters, HQ1. So we retained H. Stephen Jones to provide design coordination, project management, owner representation, and construction administration services for the technology, security, and facility systems associated with our new headquarters. The original award from April 2020 included much of the security and telecommunications system design and coordination for the building automation and integration. The building automation systems design was added in January of 2021. Similarly, the original scope included coordination but not design of the audio-visual system. It also did not include detailed project management and assistance in scoping complex planning for integration of technology service equipment. So this addition includes design and specification for the balance of the technology services equipment and planning scope for integration services and move management sequencing to be performed by others. So the scope includes owner requested technology design, technology engineering, construction administration, related move-in project management services related to the technology equipment and planning for integration. JEA's intent and goal is to provide project continuity and support for the additional identified services of the work as the project has evolved. So we are recommending to the committee a change order in the amount of $497,772. This should be completed in September of 2022. We'll just note that the work on the new headquarters is complex and required the additional support work. Much of this work was already anticipated from the beginning of the project, but was not at a point in the overall and interior design to be defined, which is why we're bringing it to you all now. I'll just note there will be another scope defined for the integration to perform the hands-on installation and coordination through a different contracted vendor. So this should wrap up the needs for H. Stephen Jones and Associates. I'm going to pause there and make sure, ask Nancy if I missed anything or if she wants to add anything.
No, thanks, Jenny. That was a great summary and happy to answer questions if needed.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions or comments?
Good morning, this is Hyde. Do we know, or Nancy, do you know, or have an estimate of when we're going to go forth with the next ask for HSJ?
I don't think there'll be another ask for HSJ. We will be engaging an integrator through a separate procurement, but that is not HSJ. HSJ will help us scope that and review, but they don't do that work.
Okay. Oh,
Any other
I
questions?
understand.
That was that kind of that last piece that we added in one of the last paragraphs, just so everyone was aware of the hands-on installation and coordination would be through a different vendor.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll pass it back to the chair for a vote.
Thank you, Jenny. May I get a motion to approve award item 2?
Hi, Boo. So
Mary Dutton, so moved.
All right, we have a motion from Hai Vu. Lori came in shortly after, so I'll give you the second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, motion is adopted. I'll pass it back over to Jenny to present award item 3.
Thank you through the chair. Award number 3 was an invitation for bid. This is for our construction services for the McDuff Water Treatment Plant refurb, as well as the Norwood Water Treatment Plant refurb project. So both of them contain similar work scope, which is, for example, removal and replacement of the high service pumps, removal and replacement of the motor control centers, installation of variable frequency controllers for the high service pumps, removal and replacement of the chlorine analyzers, removal and replacement of the flow monitoring devices, and the refurbishment of the high service pump building. So we bid this out together. Sawcross was our lowest bid and recommended awardee in the amount of $11,223,795. We expect the project to be completed sometime in June of 2023. We received 3 bids on this, and if you look at the 3 bid totals, they were all pretty close in line with each other from an amount standpoint. However, when we look at our overall budget and what we had estimated for this back in the fall of 2021, it is about 50% higher. Some of the things that we noticed in the bid were the prices were higher than our internal estimate, and we also had an engineering consultant estimate. Were due to inflation for the electrical and instrumentation and controls costs. Other factors include an overhead construction market, supply chain uncertainties, the bidder's risk associated with refurbing old water treatment plants. So the age of the facility is a significant factor. Also a factor in the urgency for the refurb projects. This work is needed to ensure the reliability and resiliency of services. So for example, at McDuff, 2 of the 6 pumps have gone down in recent years and have required temporary replacement until refurbishment could be completed. Further delaying this work will impact the ability for JEA to continue to provide quality potable water to the surrounding communities. I'll also note that after the bids were received, it was learned that the interior of the underground water storage reservoir at McDuff has deterioration of the coating system and the concrete roof and beams in the vicinity of the aerators. So a firm with expertise in repairing these structures will be consulted regarding rehabilitation of the coating and the structures. So if needed, a change order will be brought to the awards committee for review, but we don't know what that looks like yet. So we're going to bring this award as is, and then we will come back if we need to and present any additional information to the committee at that time. So I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions or comments.
Jenny, this is Stephen. Did C.D. Smith attend the pre-bid meeting?
We had 6 prime contractors attend. Does anyone on the call know if they were
Jenny, this is
at the
Dan.
pre-bid?
Through the chair. Yes, the engineer was at the pre-bid.
Were all 3 of these bidders at the pre-bid?
Yes, it was a mandatory pre-bid.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
I'm just curious if C.D. Smith, they provided the estimates and then within 2 months, we awarded the contract or opened the bids rather. Was there a reason that they didn't submit a bid?
Oh, I'm sorry, Stephen. I thought you were talking about PBM, not CDM. Sorry. Are you referring to CDM?
No, CDM. Yeah, I am referring to CDM.
Okay.
They're the engineer.
Right. CDM is the engineer. This is for the construction portion.
Okay. So, but we're using their estimates? Okay, I got you.
Correct. They designed
Okay.
they were the ones that completed the design. Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
We also did a JEA estimate
Yeah, see that.
before we went to bid. I think in an effort also with the changing market to make sure that we are trying to look at these before we go to bid. That was about 6 months ago, and we went to bid about 3 months ago.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
I do want to make a comment as VP of the water system. I think there's a comment in there about the deterioration of the reservoirs. My comment is it's only under really extreme extenuating circumstances will we go back as a change order to this contract to upgrade or rehab the existing reservoirs, because the scope will be totally different. It is my intent to go out separately to bid that rehab work, because that's going to be more of a concrete rehab versus this scope, which is high service pump replacement. So there's a statement that if needed, it would go back to the awards committee, but it is not my intent to go back to the awards committee to add scope for the concrete rehab.
Okay, we'll change that wording, to reflect the intent.
Okay, yeah, just maybe add the intent, it's not, but I was okay with the words as they are right now.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All right, I'll pass it back to the chair for a vote.
Thank you, Jenny. May I get a motion to approve award item 3?
I move, so moved.
And a second? So we have a motion from Hai Vu, a second from Ricky Erickson. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion is adopted. I'll pass it over to Jenny to present award item 4.
Thank you through the chair. Award number 4, another invitation for bid. This is our light and medium duty vehicle procurement acquisition. So this is for 6 fully electric vehicles within the light duty vehicle class for our FY23 capital requirements for replacement for the energy department expansion needs. So this is, these are fully electric trucks, and they are new to the market. We are recommending awarding to Duval Ford in the amount of $396,330. So I'll explain that there's quite a bit in the background that I want to walk you guys through. So we received 2 responses. Note those were the same vendors that previously bid on our other light duty vehicles that weren't electric. And so we had a feeling we were going to have low competition from that standpoint. So we only received 2. We didn't bid these when we bid out the other ones because this has a very unique ordering window with the OEM, which is Ford Motor, just due to the nature of the vehicle and that this is the first time it's being made available to the public for this model. And so the basis of award was decided to be on the lowest cost. When we compare our other light and medium duty vehicles, so we took one that utilized a similar configuration, although they're very different, just to give you guys an idea of the increased cost of going electric, but then the benefits that also come with that. So we compared the ICE, which is the internal combustion engine, even though, these are considerably different. The new price is 64% higher, largely based on clearly differences in technology. The percentage, we took from the bid from FY22, but it's very well documented that long-term maintenance combined with the reduced fuel cost offset the majority of the higher entry costs of the all-electric vehicle. And we've seen this in many of the other electric platforms. Ford Motor published about a 40% reduction in scheduled maintenance cost over the life of the asset. So JEA is looking to expand the electric fleet to the larger platform to allow further electrification and the economic and environmental benefits associated with it. So when we received these bids, the proposals were both over budget. So we went back, JEA Procurement reached out to the lowest bidder to clarify exactly what was being proposed and if there was work being proposed above what was required. It was confirmed that the model price had significantly more features and upgrades than our technical specifications required. So we believe in lieu of a rescind and a rebid, the best interest of JEA is to move forward with the award to Duval Ford and allow JEA Procurement to continue dialogue regarding future change order reductions and place the order timely to meet our 2022 model year order deadlines. So if we were to rescind and rebid, it would not allow us time to make that window, and in turn it would delay these purchases for another year. But we believe post-award a change order can be completed and still completely comply with our technical specifications. And if so, this should yield approximately 18% or about $66,000 reduction in the overall cost, or alternatively, it would reduce that percentage that we're seeing when we compare the two. It would reduce that to only 35% increase over the ICE unit. So this is something that is allowed per the operational procedures to work with the low bidder. So we have either that option to continue to do what we have explained in this award, or we could rescind and not get these timely for the fleet group and have them come in next year. So those are our options, and we believe this is our best option to meet the business needs. So I'm going to pause there, ask if there's any questions or comments.
Hey Jenny, this is Hyatt. I do have some questions because I am a little bit concerned. So we're going out for light duty trucks, right? And this is going to be all electric. And as I may be totally wrong, but as I understand it, the all-electric light-duty trucks is really new, right? Ford is putting one out, and maybe Tesla. I'm not too sure. I think maybe GM is going to put one out soon, but I don't know their production yet. So what we're seeing is a relatively new not market, but asset that we don't have a lot of information on as far as their robustness, longevity, and all that, because this is not for just customer use. This is going to be using it as a fleet. So I want to make sure we're not rushing into purchasing something there's not a lot of data out there. Yeah, I understand the cost versus typical internal combustion engine models is going to be higher, but the actual cost is, I think, 32% or something higher than our estimate. And so I'm concerned about, we've gotten quotes, we're based on estimates on something. I'm assuming quotes or at least published prices out there for these vehicles. And then the bids are much higher than what we think the cost should have been. And then, as I understand it, the bids don't really match what we wanted. It just bells and whistles, I guess, above what we wanted. And so now we are forced to go back and negotiate with a low bidder on what we really want. So can someone from the business talk through how we got the quote, or at least on which to base our estimates, and then why are these so different than the actual bids?
Sure. All good questions. Hi. I don't see anyone from the business, so I will ask Kenny if he wouldn't mind answering some of your questions. And then if he doesn't know all of the answers, we can get back to you, or we can, decide how we want to move forward.
Yeah, hi. You bring forward some good questions, and I wouldn't call this a proof of concept or a pilot, mostly because these are ready for the market, products that Ford has been putting out that they've been testing for 6 years, and fully electric vehicles are relatively mainstream. As you did note, that in a larger platform vehicle like a half-ton pickup that we're talking about here, it is something that is new to the market. And Ford is one of those first entries out there on the market. There are things like Rivian, which just came out to the market. Tesla has their Cybertruck, which is coming out relatively soon. Chevy is planning on a Silverado EV truck that is coming to market, I believe, in 2024. But none of them are in very high production. This is Ford's very first year that they're going to be releasing them to the general public, but they have been testing them. They've been testing them extensively over the past few years. And what we are looking at is buying these 6, and those 6 would actually be utilized and sort of passed along between different segments of our network. So, someone in meters could drive it for a few months, someone in electric could drive it for a few months, someone in water could drive it for a few months, and we would sort of pass these units around to see how well they adapt to the different areas. But when you're looking at significantly reduced fuel costs, along with significantly reduce long-term labor for maintenance of these vehicles, we believe that it is advantageous for us to purchase. When you look at what it costs per vehicle, we believe when we go back to the supply base and we talk to them about reducing the work scope. So we will be moving from an XLT model, the XLT trim model, which is what they quote, which is what we mostly buy on all of our vehicles because that is pretty close to the base model. On the Lightning, they have produced a Pro model, and they make an extended range vehicle, but it is not available to the general public. It is only available to fleet vehicles. And that is the vehicle that we think that we can get into, which will give us our extended range battery, which can get us to 300 miles of range. And it will be in the Pro trim, which does reduce some of those creature comforts, but it does meet all of our requirements. And when we move to that vehicle, we believe that it's not considerably much more than a regular vehicle. It's around 35%. So you're looking at 54,000, around 54,000 is what we believe we're going to target for that price of that vehicle. And when you look at how much we paid for a plain internal combustion engine with similar upfits, it's around 40,000. So you're 14,000 more for the vehicle up front to get an all electric versus that. And what our hopes is that we can get these vehicles, we can try them out, we can run our own business case on how much less fuel we're using, how much more reliability that we're getting. You know, we won't have to go do every 5,000 mile oil changes and be out of vehicle for the fleet every few months while you go get oil changes. That doesn't happen. We would charge these overnight, things along those lines. And we believe that there is some benefits in fleet availability, plus reduced cost and maintenance, plus environmental impact, plus the reduction in fuel costs that will benefit JEA long term. And that's part of why we are proposing buying these from that business model concept. But that $14,000 upfront gap would change, be narrowed out and be offset.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kenny, so the original quote, was that just based off, what was our original budget? Sorry, not quote, budget based off of? That was another question I asked. Was it like just what we thought MSRP was, or how did we come up with that budget?
Yeah, so the original budget is $49,700 is what we put it at. And that was based upon what a Ford Pro, when you go and look at it on their website, this is how much we believe it'll cost us. Because you couldn't build these when we were creating the budget. You couldn't go onto their website and build one of these. You can now because they've opened up the ordering window. But at the time, you couldn't build it. So we just look at the literature and we say, you believe 49,000 based upon the literature that they're having and the numbers that are put on their website. We believe 49.7 is a good number for us based upon what they have. When you could actually start building them on their website, you can't build the Ford Pro extended range model specific for fleet. A general consumer can't build that, so we could never come up with that number either of what we're looking at doing. What you could build is a Ford XLT extended range with a tow package, and that's what is in the bid as it currently relates to what is being asked for the awards is a Ford extended range XLT pickup truck with a tow technology package, so therefore it gets us rear reverse cameras, lane keeping assist, a lot of safety features that we've tried to standardize on our pickup trucks. It gives you all of those various features, and that's what's being proposed here. But we believe that we can move back down to the Ford Pro extended range battery that's specifically for fleet and we've discussed this, as Jenny noted, with the most respondent supplier, so the lowest cost respondent. We work with them, and we believe we can get at that 54,000, which is a 12,000, almost a $12,000 reduction in cost of the truck by moving to that Ford Pro that Ford has priced up specifically to attract fleet customers.
Kenny.
So, Kenny, thank you for all that. So, yeah, I am absolutely convinced that we should try these out. But like I said earlier, I'm concerned about the vendors really padding their numbers. So, let me get this right. If we were to go to the Ford website now and build the model that they're proposing, the XLT extended range, what is the cost if you were, as a customer, just go and build, put one versus the bid prices that we're getting? Can we get a better price if you just go in and buy one directly? Or what is the upcharge that we're experiencing going through Duval?
I don't have that number in front of me. I'd have to look at it. We really don't have much of an upcharge on it. Ford has moved to a different model for these Ford Lightnings than they have for other vehicles. And that is that they don't have a regular pricing structure on these, and that's to prevent things like Ford saw on their more appealing higher demand vehicles, such as the Ford Bronco. If someone went in to try to buy a Ford Bronco, lots of dealers are marking those up 10, 15% over what MSRP would be of what you would build on your website. So they were considerably higher, and Ford wanted to remove that from it. So they went to a one price, this is what it is across that, and that's what that XLT is. We will have some upfitting costs to put JEA logos on it, to put, for them to do all of our tags and licensing and those types of functions. There will be some of that upfitting costs in there. When you look at what Duval versus Garber Ford, which is the other bidder, Garber Ford was significantly higher than Duval Ford because they put a lot more of that additional markup in these. If you were a general consumer that went out and tried to buy one of these Ford Lightnings, you would have had to have put a registration in about 10 months ago. And if you were the very first person on the very first day, you would have just recently have been able to order them. Most people won't be ordering these trucks. If you are a general consumer, you won't be asked to have ordered these trucks for maybe another year. You may not deliver them to 2023, 2024. That's the demand that's out there. For fleet customers, they don't go through that reservation pathway and then being asked to order in waves. They go a different path like what we're doing here, and you order them directly through your dealers that will do the upfitting and do the transaction. So it's a little bit different of a model than what you would traditionally see. I mean, no other Ford vehicle are you placing reservations far in advance, being asked to order in waves. So, there's 10,000 people that move in, orders that move in every 2 or 3 weeks that they then build their trucks, and that's how they phase them in. That doesn't exist out there. So it's tough to compare what would typically happen on a Ford F-150 and what is going to happen on these Ford Lightning. But as a follow-up, I'll try to get an XLT general to the consumer. What would you conceptually pay for one of these vehicles? But what we are proposing is after this award, moving to a Ford Pro extended range, which is only available for fleet customers and must be bought from the dealers through the model that we're proposing here, where we would buy them special order for JEA through the fleet. And that's why the original bids weren't done that way, is because that's never existed. There's never been a fleet specific model that's not available to the general public. And that's what caused, I guess the confusion by the suppliers when they put their quotes together, and that's why they're bidding the XLT, which is a common trim level for JEA.
So I'll add, the Duval or Ford Motors in general, they're trying to push the electrification of fleet. And so that's why they are proposing this separate model of ordering for just fleet in general and not, separate of what is open to the consumer market.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Ken. I think it's providing me a little bit more better understanding of going through fleet, and at the very least, one advantage is that the scheduling.
Delivery.
The delivery of these vehicles, you can get some sort of a guarantee and essentially jump the line and get in these vehicles, and that's in the pricing. So I appreciate the explanation.
Yeah, and I'll note, so we will continue our discussions, and if for some reason we do not meet the FY22 ordering deadline, we will kind of regroup if we don't get those assurances. And the reason we, kind of wanted to make sure that we had that time to work with them, if that doesn't happen, we will regroup and come back to the committee with either, if we don't get the reduction we want or we don't get to order it in time, we'll come back with a rescind. So we've got kind of our options. After we get your approval, we'll have our options to be able to vet this to the best interest of JEA.
So may I ask, when do we expect these vehicles to be delivered? It's not FY22. I realize that, but do we know when?
Yeah. So I have the answer to that, and then I have an answer to your other. So while Jenny was just speaking, I went onto their website and tried to build a Ford XLT extended range with a tow technology package, and the estimated retail price for a consumer is $75,564. Our price is $66,055. We plan on eventually moving to a Pro extended range model, which is $54,000. So $54,000 is $21,000 less than what a general consumer would buy an XLT with a comparable range battery with the same tow package.
Thank you. That's good information. Maybe we can.
And then regarding your question about when they will deliver, we are anticipating that they would deliver in FY23. Until we place the order, Ford will swap these out. However, on the Ford Pro extended range, because that is for fleet customers only, each region is designated a specific allocation of how many vehicles per calendar year, model year, how many of those are. The Southeast region hasn't filled up all their Pro extended range trucks for model year 2022 at this time. So we hope to order these, and that's part of why Jenny stated the rescind and rebid, is that we believe we can get into possibly a 2022 model year, which may make it so they can deliver, get upfitted, and make it to JEA in FY22, but we are anticipating that these would be FY23 vehicles as of today. But until we place the order with Ford and get put into the queue, we can't get a build date.
Understood. Thank you.
So if we believe that the pro range or whatever it's called is gonna be 54 grand, should we wait and do it then versus what we're doing now? That's a lot cheaper than 66 grand a piece.
Yeah, Ricky. So that's what we're allowed to do per our operational procedures with review of legal is to go ahead and ask you all to approve the award the way that we had bid it out. And if we can come back to you with the reduction, we will. So we won't pay the 66. We'll either be able to get the reduction and get in the FY22 ordering queue and bring it back as a reduction to this contract for the awards committee to approve, or we'll bring it back and rescind. So we won't pay that higher. We're not going to pay that higher price.
I think it is important just to, electrification of our own fleet to set the example for what we're trying to encourage others to do, I think is an important element. 6 vehicles feels like a small enough number to be comfortable with. I don't know that there's a lot of value in trying to nickel and dime the price down of these. And if we get to the spot where we figure out that the technology isn't as far along as it needs to be, we can hold back for a bit without purchasing more.
Yeah. So Laura, we know some of the discussion, and it was a lot. So to summarize, the model they quoted has a lot more luxury features than we need. So we know we can get a price reduction. So, and without compromising the tech spec in any way with a long range battery, et cetera. So we feel pretty confident in that. It's really, once we get the approval, can we get these ordered in FY22 and meet that timeline and that slotting program?
Jenny, if we don't meet the timeline for ordering, from a procurement perspective, given that this is relatively new and there's a lot of moving parts and discussions, would you go out to bid using an ITN versus the IFB if we ended up rescinding this?
That actually would have been a really good method to use on this. Because it was new to us, new to the vendors. We could have had a lot more flexibility in negotiating and clarification, et cetera, during the bid process than having to do it after the fact. But this was, yes, if we had to do something different, Stephen, we would change it to an ITN.
Okay.
This really good discussion, appreciate all of the good questions when we're buying something new and doing something a little bit differently. I think it's important to make sure that we clarify and get you guys in a good headspace and comfortable. You can tell Kenny and his team have done quite a bit of research on the EV market. They know what's going on and feel good about the purchase of these, and the business does as well. They thought that this was something that was appropriate, to Laura's point, to electrify the fleet a little bit more. We have some cars that we already utilize now, so we've been using those for a couple of years. I think the meter readers might be using those. I think they're the Chevy Bolt or the Bolt.
Yeah.
Bolt or Bolt?
Yeah, we do use the Chevy Bolt, which is a full electric vehicle. We have 10 of them in our fleet. And you're right, Jenny, they are for the meter reading department. Instead of having a back seat, they sort of have this utility compartment back there in the back that they can put any of their various tools in them. And our thought is, that they've done well, and they've sort of helped in that concept of what you're going to use. But a car with a utility compartment doesn't have the functionality to go across our fleet model as well as a pickup truck. I mean, the F-150, as you all have probably all seen as you are out in the field, and many of the employees of the people here on this call, they drive F-150s. I mean, that is by far the vehicle of the fleet, because they can pull a trailer if they need to in storms. They haul tools in the back. These are all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive vehicles because they're dual motor electrics. So they're automatically 4x4s, in the instance they need to go off the pavement. That's in all of the vehicles. I want to say that we buy, and I don't have the numbers here in front of me, and my apologies for not having that in front of me, but I want to say we buy around 60 Ford F-150s every year, and we have 400 plus of these F-150s out there. So us to buy 6 of them, it is a very small percentage of what we buy as a whole for Ford F-150s, and that is to proof of concept. Does this electrification work great in a fleet model? And like was mentioned, we can sort of be a guinea pig for Northeast Florida in a fleet model. Do electric vehicles work great? And most likely, we believe it will work great for a fleet vehicle where you're coming home back to your home base and charging it every night. That it's a great model for fleets to move to electric vehicles.
Yeah, this will help expand the fleet electrification program that Bailey is working on right now.
And bottom line, and I agree with Laura, it's like JEA, we want to send a message, we want to be the forefront of the electrification. And by awarding this project, we're addressing both schedule and Kenny convinced me of the pricing, that we are going to get the appropriate pricing for the vehicle. So, and I'm good. Thank you for all the explanation.
You're welcome. All right, I'll pass it back to the chair for a vote.
Thank you. Also appreciate all the discussion. May I get a motion to approve award item 4?
Laura Dutton, so moved.
I will second.
All right, we have a motion from Laura Dutton, a second from Hai Vu. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion is adopted. Award item 4 was our final award item for today.
I'm sorry, just before we
Yeah.
finish. Are there any backup documents for this? It wasn't included in the one that I reviewed, and I'm sorry, I should have asked you.
There was not, because there was only 2 bidders and a single line item. We didn't have any supporting documents. There was a budget sheet that we sent to the finance department that sort of had the prices, our budget estimates, what budget they were going to be hitting, the price increase math and things along those lines, which I could send to you.
So Kenny, I think that it might be appropriate for us to, if you can print out the page on the website that you just looked at.
Yep.
And maybe make some notes or even a table, that shows kind of the different models. So we talked about the XLT, we talked about the Pro with the extended range, and then what from a fleet perspective, what the consumer would buy, and maybe show kind of the pricing, and then the last table show, kind of where we think we're going to end up after negotiations, so that it's all kind of nicely put together. I think that would tell the story and provide some backup. Does that sound appropriate, Hai, from your perspective?
Oh, yeah, well, at the very least, show whatever they're provided as far as bids. I didn't see anything in the backup as far as even responses from the bidders.
Yeah, if you look up at the top,
bid workbook.
Yeah, if you scroll up a little bit here on this award document, there's the bidders.
Yeah, I see that.
And that's the bid value, and there's 6 vehicles.
I see. Hi. Yeah. So Kenny, just if you'll add Duval Ford's bid workbook.
Yeah.
And their response, their bid form, just add that as backup to show the pricing there.
Yep. Just the actual bid document.
Yep. I will include it as a backup.
Thank you. All right, back to the chair. You can close it out.
Sorry.
The entire agenda representing items 1 through 4 are approved for February 10th, 2022. Is there any other business to come before the awards committee at this time? I do have one comment. It's really, I'll just use Award 3 as the example. For CD Smith, if they're handling the engineering and providing the estimates, we have an estimate of September. We have the responses that were opened in December. Is there a need to do more of a true up with those engineering firms when they're providing the estimates? Or did they provide that several months ago and it was just submitted in September? I mean, how does that work? It just seems like a significant shift within a couple of months, 2 to 3 months.
We do perform a bid to after we receive the bids with our estimates. The engineers provide estimates at their final design, and
but was that final design completed several months before September? But they just were submitted in September. I'm trying to figure out why there was a 50% increase. Within 2 to 3 months, right?
yeah, well, the estimates come with their final design. They typically provide both about the same time. And that's a quick question.
Yeah. So
we
we noted, and Mickey's on the line, he's our PM for this, but we had a long discussion with him about that too. And when he looked at the bids, the way they came back against the estimates, the electrical and instrumentation and control costs were a lot higher. And then we feel like they've built some risk in just because of the refurbishing of the very old water treatment plants. So do we think that accounts for 50%? I don't think it's quite that much. We think there's other risks being built in, like the supply chain disruptions and making sure they can meet our timelines and ordering materials, et cetera. But yeah, we did see them put some additional risk in here.
I guess my concern is you're, outside of the JEA team looking at historical information, now you hired an engineering firm, should be a little bit closer to what's happening at this time. That's what we're paying them for. If there was a 6-month or 12-month gap between these, I probably wouldn't have said anything. But just
good
maybe
point.
that there's probably an
Go ahead.
opportunity to do some type of true up here so we can get those estimates a little closer.
Yeah, and I accepted part of the explanation, the part about this is an old water treatment plant and the risk of it's the same with all the other projects. So this is no different than refurbishing any other treatment plants. Yeah, I agree on the supply chain issues and the costs are increasing because of that, but the other part about this is being an old plant long.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So if you look at all three of the bids, and if we want to, dissect this a little bit more, I mean, they were all very closely ranked.
Agreed.
And so, if you try to point back and figure out why, they're all reading the same information. So it could have been anything in that tech spec that the engineer put together that just didn't either make sense to them, or they were building in additional risk, or, it could have been, they're reading these documents. So, to Stephen's point, if we don't think the engineer got this right, that's something we need to go back and address with them and make sure that if there's, any kind of value engineering, if those tech specs can be looked at differently or clarified in any way with the business, since this is an IFD, we can't do that with them. You certainly have the ability to go back to the low bidder, and we can look at that with the engineer and see if there's any value engineering that can be done at that point.
Yeah, and to Stephen's point, we will be able to do a true up, not now because the bids come in as a lump sum bid, but once you get the contractor on board, they will have to provide us a schedule of values, and that's where you can look at all the different line items compare those to our estimates, both the engineers and our internal estimates, to see where the major
Yeah.
discrepancies are. And I have a feeling it's just going to be a huge percent across all items because
Right.
in the end, the supply chain issues impact everything. It's just not just the electronic components,
Okay.
from labor to all commodities.
Yes, to Hyde's point, I have contacted Sawcross. I have obtained draft schedule values for both McDuff and Norwood. And I plan on sharing the draft schedule values with both JEA Estimating and CDM Smith Estimating so that they can look at that and we can have some lessons learned type experience. And that way, both organizations can, from this, make adjustments on future estimates as they prepare JEA.
Thanks, Mickey.
All right, I think that's it. Any other comments for today? All right, seeing none, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.